Feminists or thoughts, Renee?
Horse.
House.
Why is it threatening to men when women start talking about what they desire when it comes to sex, whether they've climaxed, whether they've enjoyed it? I've seen so many arguments against OnlyFans, but y'all don't have the same energy for Pornhub. Hello and welcome to the To My Sisters podcast. I'm Renee.
And I'm Courtney, and we are your online big sisters and hosts of the To My Sisters podcast.
Now, we are all about promoting the wellness, growth, and development of a community of sisters across the world.
And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about sex politics. Yes, when it comes to women's sexual agency, the rise of OnlyFans, and hot girl summer anthems like WAP, are we witnessing a new era led by feminist revolutionaries, or simply watching for Thots further hurt the advancement of women?
I love the fact you even tripped up on the thoughts. Because we're going to talk about this.
It's going to be very interesting, and I'm really interested to hear what you have to say.
I'm excited.
Yes, wow. But first, of course, this is a what?
Ding, ding, ding.
Dilemma. Let's get into it. Hey, sisters.
Hey.
So my question is, how do you overcome feelings of lust or infatuation when you know you don't want to be with anyone? If anything, they are hormone induced, but how do you work through them? Do you just go with the flow and internally resolve them? Or is there something you two do? Whilst I know attraction is normal, I just want to know how to manage those feelings.
Oh,
very real.
Very real.
Dealing with the horniness.
The roast.
It be what it be.
The hot, the heat.
The heat.
The roast coffee.
Especially when it's around that time of the month.
Well, listen, ovulation, there is not enough literature or public
people don't talk about it
understanding around ovulation. Listen,
they
that
don't.
mid-cycle heat.
Yeah, it's tragic, actually.
Well,
realistically.
Well, first of all, sis, it's completely normal. I think, we're still having these conversations around women and sexual agency. And I think this is such a great dilemma for this particular episode, actually, where we're talking about women actually being sexual characters within their own lives. Yeah. And just to start off, it's completely normal.
Very
Attraction
much so.
is quite normal.
Very much
It's normal to find men attractive. It's normal to, find them sexually attractive to be very, very precise, because a lot of attraction that is normalized for women is often around, materialism and all of that good stuff. It's okay to be sexually attracted to men. I think where it becomes tricky is how to actually act on, these urges. So it very much depends on you. For me and Courtney, both of us are celibate. So it's tight out here.
And before you correct us, celibacy, abstinent, basically we ain't having sex till we get married.
This is it. So in terms of actively dealing with, these feelings or these urges, it's all about, I guess, rerouting your energy towards doing something a little bit more productive.
Yeah.
Is it a case of you're feeling these urges and then spending hours upon hours speaking to men online or speaking to your male friends and, engaging in very suggestive, conversations, at 2 a.m. in the morning when you should be asleep? Or are you actively, trying to divert that energy towards doing something else? Yeah. So I think the very first thing that I would say towards trying to overcome them, if this is something you're interested in doing, is try and find a way to do something else, or at least divert that energy. Yeah. For me, it would be things like reading, working out, because a lot of the energy that is brought to this forefront when you're feeling kind of horny, all of that dopamine, oxytocin, all of that good stuff it can be channeled towards other things, particularly working out for me. Find something you actually enjoy doing and try and use the energy that is produced as a result of that horniness towards doing something else, I would say. And I would also say, really contend with it too, because I think that sometimes, because women are seen as non-agent, or we're not seen as folks that actually think that, I think this guy is sexy, it can feel quite uncomfortable. But before you, I guess, this is more of a precursor to, the first bit of advice, which is to channel your energy elsewhere. Actually contend with it, like sit with it, maybe journal, maybe, talk about it with a friend as well. Because oftentimes we can feel like we're alone in these kind of things, especially when it comes to like sexual
100%.
activities or feelings. So actually speak to a friend and let them know how you feel as well. Like there will be times where I will either message or talk to Courtney and I'm like, sis,
it's real out here.
I ain't gonna lie to you.
I'm finna do some stuff I ain't meant to do.
I'm trying to get my eggs correct. So having somebody else to talk to share those experiences with, particularly a sister, not a brother.
Don't do that.
Not a brother. So some of them will be some of them will take advantage of your feelings. Okay, you see that oxytocin? Okay.
Oh wow.
They'll take advantage of that, and all of a sudden, you're at somebody's house at 3 a.m.
When you're not meant to be.
When you're not meant to be. And I love the fact, just to close out what I think, I love the fact that you mentioned in your dilemma, if you're not interested in being in a relationship. So how do you manage these urges whilst you're actually, single or waiting or all of that kind of good stuff? And yeah, I think you've already partially answered it in the sense of saying, is it just internal work? Well, it's not just internal work, but it often starts there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miss Courtney, bouncing it over to your court.
I think you've touched on everything. I think, you've done the first step of acknowledging.
Did you see what I did there?
What?
Miss Courtney, your court. She hates it.
I do. But I think in terms of you've already done the first step of acknowledging that this is completely natural. And I think for a lot of women and for a long time for women, it's been seen as abnormal to have these sexual desires and to actively express that this is how I'm feeling. I was reading an article the other day about literally on this, like, okay, how do you deal with sexual urges in a more productive way? And somebody was saying, the way men are wired, they've got a natural outlet and they've got a little bit of grace because they get like wet dreams and, they can basically ejaculate that way when they're feeling pent up. And I was thinking, so women don't need to ejaculate? So women don't have wet dreams? You are wrong. And that's it made me frustrated because it was this kind of suggestion that to have sexual desires, to have sexual urges is innately masculine. And for women, it's something we shouldn't actually have to deal with. We shouldn't have an outlet. And I saw this, this is going all around the houses, but I have to say it. I saw this clip from this group of guys who were saying they find it so strange and extremely masculine when a woman climaxes.
Let me not even start.
And I was thinking,
let me not even start.
Is everything okay at home?
When you do have sex with women, what occurs?
What are you waiting? Y'all clearly ain't good at it.
I didn't want to be
Just
the one.
Your wife isn't satisfied.
Oh,
for real though. But how can you say you find it weird? Like women shouldn't be doing that. Like they find it so weird when a woman climaxes.
Do you know how problematic that is?
Fam. And I think for us as like women of faith, I don't know why you are like not trying to engage in a relationship, but I think for us personally as women of faith, as young women, people don't expect you to talk freely about sex, sexual urges, the desire to orgasm. People find it so weird. Like I'm very liberal in my discussions about sex, right? And people are just like, oh, because it's like if you open up that door, you're going to end up in lust. You're going to end up in infatuation. You're going to end up basically opening up something that you can't close. And for me, it's all about just having control of your body. And I think the first step of that is understanding that this is something that doesn't have to overwhelm you. It's actually very natural.
Yeah.
And I think that also then when I get that into my mind, I can tell myself, okay, Courtney, yes, you're horny, but you're horny because you were triggered. You're horny because it's that time of the month. And that's why I think it's so important to inspect your behavior and to really analyze what are your triggers. Because for me, like I'm currently watching Scandal and I was getting through it fine. Then I started to notice, I have a desire to engage in sexual activity.
Oh,
And I was starting to deep.
nice.
Yes, because you've been watching several sex scenes, very passionate, very all of this, right? And that's what's triggering you. So paying attention to, okay, what has triggered this feeling in me, alongside my hormones and it being, you know, that time of my cycle, my ovulation period. I think it's also really interesting what you said about understanding the science of it, but also divulging this information and in full transparency to other women, because men will take advantage of it. I know this is a very heteronormative way of framing this, but people will generally take advantage of it if there is mutual attraction. But I say men because, like, naturally, when you're releasing these hormones, what's it, pheromone? I think they call it endorphins. When you're releasing these pheromones and stuff, it makes you actually attractive. Alongside that, there's the sexual element of they might be horny too, or they might just end up thinking, oh, this is a great opportunity to have sex with someone. And you're not trying to do that. You're not trying to engage in sexual activity. So I think that that's just wisdom. Like, getting around people who you will not be sexually attracted to and fall into that situation with. Now, dealing with being by yourself, if you're trying to release sexual urges, I echo what Renee said. You have to find a way to channel those feelings, that energy, that time into something else, because it's easy to just start doing stuff you don't want to do, not because it's bad, but in this case, it's bad. So because you don't want to do them. Do you get what I mean? So, like, dealing with, because I know a lot of sisters are like, I'm dealing with pornography, I'm dealing with masturbation and stuff like that. And because the sexual feelings are so real, and I think it's important, do not attach shame to the fact that you feel horny, because it's natural, right? The issue now is just finding wise ways to deal with it. So what I was saying was, I think there's a lot of women who, like, I'm dealing with these things, and instead of learning to control their bodies and become one with their body, they start to demonize sex, and they start to demonize, they kind of start to feel like that Jezebel, like, why am I like this?
Shame.
Other people are so pure. It's just riddled in shame. And don't allow that to be you. It's a natural part of you, and you have to learn to overcome it. For me, like Renee said, I journal, I pray, I'm as honest as possible to the people around me that, yo, this is what I'm going through. I really want to get some in right now. I need you to hold me accountable. I need you to give me advice. But also, if I do slip up, I don't want any shame. Like, leave me alone. Yeah. This is what I'm going through. Not leave me alone in the set, but I don't want you to be like, oh, but Courtney, you said you want to do it and did it. No, help me, like, get better. But yeah, I think that all in all, what I'm saying is, similar to Renee, learn to divert your energy, learn to accept that this is a part of you, but it can be overcome because you're in control of your body. Your body doesn't control you. It's easy to feel like these feelings. Have you ever had a wave of horniness just come over you out of nowhere?
It's a lot.
And you just think,
and all of a sudden, everybody looks really attractive.
Everything. Your thoughts become occupied with everything. And with that, it's easy to feel like this is going to take over me, right? In this moment, I can't escape this feeling. Actually, no, you're in control of your body. Your body is a slave to you.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything. It's mind over matter here. And so really coming into that power and that empowerment of knowing, I can stop myself from doing this if I want to. Horniness has never killed anybody. Let me tell you that. So if you're trying to withdraw from it, you've got a reason, you've got a motive. You don't want to open a door to something you may not be able to control, or that you know is highly addictive, etc. So yeah, it's mind over matter, and channel your energy somewhere else and get accountability around you who can help you without shame. That's what I'd say.
Wonderful.
Great stuff.
Wow.
I'm passionate about this stuff, girl.
No, I completely
and I hope that when you do get in that relationship, that you're banging it out, babe.
Yeah.
And that's the latter days are what keep me motivated.
Thank you, Courtney.
I know that change is gonna come.
Oh, hallelujah.
I was born by the river. In a little tent. But I know change.
It'll be worth the wait.
100%.
It'll be worth the wait.
Yeah, but sis, we are sending you a whole bunch of love, and we hope that this was advice that you can take on and that can help you in this time.
Yeah.
But without further ado, we are going to jump into feminists or thoughts, Renee.
Horse.
House. In this house. Okay, so when it comes, actually, since we started talking about WAP, what are your thoughts on WAP? Meg the Stallion and Cardi B. What are your thoughts?
B.
Obviously, WAP came out quite a while ago, and it felt like everyone was in a bit of a ruckus.
Yeah,
that is literally my favorite word. Everyone was in a bit of a ruckus talking about wow, wet ass pussy. It's the fact I even said it.
I know. I was even saying, the acronym. You gonna say it?
I'm sorry, but that's what it stands for.
That's what it stands for.
So, what are your thoughts on WAP? Meg the Stallion, Cardi B.
Cardi B. Okay, I'll talk about the artists first, and then talk about their art, because I think that a lot of folks do it the other way. Yeah, a lot of folks do it the other way round, where they start talking about this is what you've produced, therefore this is who you are.
Ooh.
So let's talk about Meg. Let's talk about Cardi B. First and foremost, they're musicians. Yeah, that's what they do. That's their artists, right? Yep. And personally, like, I like them. I like Meg. She's cool. I don't know her, but I think from what I've seen of her,
I like her.
I like her. I don't know her personally.
Yeah.
I don't know her family.
Yeah.
I follow her on Instagram. I just want to know, I'm making a point of doing this here because a lot of folks that have a lot to say about Meg the Stallion and Cardi B, a lot of these musicians, particularly female musicians, seem to have a level of familiarity with them. And it's like, how much familiarity do you get from listening to their music such that you can have such a heavy-handed judgment and opinion of their pieces of work?
Right.
So yeah, I think they're cool. I think both of them have really interesting and inspiring stories, right? So you have Meg, who's been grinding for a very, very long time.
Through college and all.
A really long time. She's also college educated. Yeah. I think a lot of people forget that too. Yeah. She's college educated.
She's smart.
She's really intelligent. She's about her business. She's about her money.
And she's young.
She's like 25, isn't she? And then you also have Cardi B, who, again, big hustler. Yeah. You know, she was a stripper for a time.
In an abusive relationship.
She was out here really, really like hustling to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And now she's a mother. She's a wife.
Yeah. Though her husband is questionable. But
I think we don't even have time to get into the ramifications of that. That's an entirely, conversation. But yeah, from all intents and purposes, from what they put out on social media and some of the things that they've gone through that, us as consumers have seen, they're really, like, their stories are pretty inspirational. Whether I agree with some of the things that they do, some of the things that they say, like most musicians, like most social media content creators, like most people in life, I take things with a pinch of salt. Coming to something like WAP and their music in general, what do I think of WAP? I think it's a funny little tune, isn't it? It's a funny little tune. I think that in terms of like music, it's actually not something that I would play all the time.
Yeah.
It's something that you would definitely hear in the clubs.
100%.
It's something that you would definitely, be shaking yash to, shaking bum. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how I feel towards WAP.
That's a good analysis though. Like, it's two artists that made a song. Now, if we're talking about it from a cultural perspective, this song has made a wave, right? And you can see music in two ways, and you can see art in general in two ways. Is it a commentary on society, or is it something that precedes a cultural shift? So there are people who are like, okay, WAP is going to cause a lot of, it's a hot girl summer, right? It's going to cause something, or is WAP a response or a reflection of the fact that society is moving there anyway? So let's just make a song that reflects that. And I think a lot of people are rattled by the idea that there's these two women, or there's this nature of female music coming up, which is very, and you kind of see it with the City Girls. Like this nature of artists and artistry coming out, which is very women in the position of agents, sexual agents of themselves, their bodies, and stuff like that. So why exactly is sexualized music content and, you know, stuff specifically produced by women of today so controversial? Like, why did WAP go viral?
Yeah.
Why did it get everyone, men and women all over the world, kind of rattled, up in arms? People on different sides of the political spectrum.
Yeah.
Why was WAP that song?
This could be a dissertation title.
100%.
This WAP, the cultural term.
The cultural term.
Ladies who are currently in school, I know you got this.
You take it.
One of you have to do
Run
this.
with it, babes.
I think WAP got so many people rattled for a number of different reasons. But first and foremost, I genuinely think that people are afraid when women are agent sexual beings.
Okay.
And I think it will link very nicely with our conversation when we move on to things like OnlyFans, right? When we think of something like WAP, it's women as agents of their sexual pleasure.
Right.
It's women recognizing that I'm sexy. It's women recognizing that, you know, I got this.
Right.
It's women recognizing that my body is nice.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a threat because the validation doesn't come from external things, right? And I think it's so interesting when we look at something like WAP, because if we look at other rappers, specifically men, in comparison to men, WAP is a child's song. It's a child song. Biggest man thing. Because if you were to look at, say, someone like P. Diddy, The Baby, Young Thug, any other male rapper that has future. If we were
the man them mascot like Future.
Drake, if we were to actually look at the lyrics as well as the videos that are being produced by male artists, they do not get the same backlash, because that's what WAP received. Backlash from men and women alike as something like WAP.
Right.
And genuinely, I think it's because, again, it's the power thing, right? And the fact that it's not a surprise that this is coming from two ladies who have, for all intents and purposes, navigated their way to the top of their industry. Somebody like Cardi B, someone like Meg Thee Stallion, who are winning awards, who are redefining what it means to be, you know, a sexual being as a woman, recognizing your own beauty and your own hotness. Recognizing your own hotness.
It's a movement. We love it.
And subjecting men to not even a full, but a tiny portion of what men have subjected women to in the past, I think is absolutely crazy. And some of the arguments that I've seen as to why, you know, WAP is problematic and all of that good stuff, I think is kind of funny. There was like an incident where WAP was playing and Cardi B was like singing along to it on Instagram Live or something like that. And her daughter Culture came out. And as soon as she came out, she turned off the music. And everyone, like some of the folks that, you know, had something to say about WAP were essentially saying like, oh, this is not child appropriate. You can see that, you know, this is something that will impact the kids of today. Even Cardi knows that this is a problematic song. Yes. Correct.
Exactly.
Correct. As a parent.
This is
as
it.
A parent.
And so many people get onto people like Nicki Minaj, Meg Thee Stallion, Cardi B, even like the new Ariana Grande, like people like that. And they're like, oh, you're influencing kids. They're parenting their children. You're letting the internet raise your children.
This is it.
This is the problem people have with it. Like, oftentimes, I get exactly why she would turn off the radio when Culture came into the room. You should be doing that for your kids too. But instead, you're letting literally the internet raise your children and you're policing the internet when actually you should be taking care of your home.
Absolutely.
And setting it in order.
Absolutely.
Because the world is full of crazies. It's full of so many things that you probably don't agree with. It's full of so many opinions, and kids are exposed to that on a daily basis. It's not just on the internet. It's not just music. It's when they go to school. It's when they listen to their teachers. And you have to control that and pattern that. And I think when people project that whole, oh, we should keep out there, we should police out there, the only place you really have authority is in your own home.
Mm-hmm.
When you're raising people, you can instill in them a mindset, you can instill in them political opinion, you can instill in them whatever morals and values you want, so that when they go out there, they're equipped to filter through everything that they see
Mm-hmm.
and decide whether they agree with it or not. That's exactly what Cardi is doing for her child. Just because you've let your child become a consumer of any and everything, it's not her fault. She's getting paid.
Oh, as well as the fact that you can't protect your children or folks that you know from everything around you. That's not the way the world works.
Yeah.
You can only teach them to adapt and to respond.
This is it.
You cannot, filter. Listen, the world is a big place. As
massive,
obvious as it is to say that, people forget. And right now, sex and sexual content sells. So if you're more conservative, or if you're somebody that's like trying to protect your kids or protect the folks around you, then you need to focus on instilling a framework internally such that when they do come across this content, they know, or they can choose not to consume it. I think people have forgotten that when it comes to content, you can choose to consume.
You can choose.
And
it's all curators.
There's so many conversations that don't need to happen, but they have happened because people don't understand the power of choice and agency. And rather than exercising your own agency, you're out here dictating what agency looks like for other people. That's not the way that it works. So even when it comes to, what is your opinion on XYZ or blah, 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 I think that the problem with the internet and social media and just folks in general right now is they feel as though their opinion or what they have to say or their beliefs need to be dictated to the entire world.
This is it.
And it's just not possible.
Yeah.
Now, thinking more about the dynamic between, I want to touch a little bit on the dynamic between grown folk and their reaction to WAP, because that's also been really, really interesting. And I love the fact that you said both men and women, because we spoke about it in one of our last episodes about internalized misogyny, right?
Yeah.
And I think for the women, as well as the men, but the women who are kind of looking at WAP and saying, this isn't feminine, this is, problematic, this is undesirable, this is everything that is wrong with, womanhood right now.
Yeah.
Respectfully mind your business. No, but it's respectfully mind your business. Why have you felt the need to comment on this in such a degrading way?
Do you think that's what it is, though? I personally think you're allowed to say your opinion.
I think you're allowed to say your opinion, but man, it's the insidiousness with which it's being stated. I think you can respect someone and disagree with them. There's a lot of disrespect when it comes to, folks that are producing sexualized content.
Yeah.
I think you can respectfully disagree with people.
Yeah.
And I think that because of the internet, a lot of us have lost the art of doing that.
100%. I completely agree. I think the issue here isn't whether you agree with WAP, if you disagree with WAP, if you think it's, straight from hell. The issue is actually, just like you have the agency to be able to give that opinion, so do other people with completely opposite political opinions to you.
Yeah.
And I think that that's where people go wrong. And I think this leads to a bigger conversation about feminism, agency, and kind of the sexual revolution. Because I think in a rise of sex being more liberal, it's being more acceptable in men and women discussing it. Women less so, but we're making strides.
Yeah.
People often see it as there is agency in being sexually liberated, and therefore liberation is about being out there, being vulgar, being this, being that. But actually, what this kind of revolution is doing is allowing you to be agents of your own body.
Yeah.
And in being agents of your body, you have a right to choose. And you have a right to choose whether you are sexually liberated or whether you're going to be sexually conservative and decide to control your body in that way. But it's all about choice. And that's where a lot of people, I guess, who come with the moral aspect of it, you've got to understand that there is agency in having those morals, right? You have the agency to say, I don't engage. For example, I don't have WAP on my playlist,
Yeah.
right? I wouldn't refer to myself as a hoe. Do you get what I mean? I wouldn't refer to somebody else as a hoe. But that is in my sexual agency. I've decided to do that over myself. But they have the same amount of agency to decide to call themselves that, to write those lyrics, to profess those opinions. I'm not going to do anything about that. If I were to do that, I would also be basically shooting myself in the foot. And it doesn't mean you can't speak out against things that you disagree with, but it's to say your opinion isn't law. Especially on the internet, people go about stating their opinion as if it were law. And I love that you pointed out that you can respectfully disagree.
And this whole idea of your value decreasing as a result of whatever you choose to profess, right? I'm sick of it, especially because sex for women, as we've talked about, like, you know, as we've hinted on in this episode and in former episodes, sex for women is just something that has been so controversial for years, decades, generations.
Since the beginning of time.
Since the beginning. Since the beginning. And I think what's interesting in revolutions in general and, you know, conservatism, usually the response is the hyperinflation of the opposite, right? So in response to like hyper-conservatism, you often have hyper-liberalization. So is it a surprise that we're seeing women or just folks in general come out and say, do you know what, I'm going to do the extreme opposite because I've been controlled for this amount of time?
Not at all.
And I think we definitely need to reach a middle ground where we can discuss both of these sides of the spectrum respectfully, and talk about where we lie. Like, I want to see, like, even just the idea of like, are they feminists or Thots, right? Did they say that?
Yeah.
Did you ask them? Because I think obviously, you know, music is produced and music is something that's intended nowadays to really generate views and opinions and all of that good stuff. But putting myself in the mind of like Meg Thee Stallion or Cardi B and like both of them, I don't know if when they were writing, you know, WAP, or whenever they were, you know, creating their content or whatnot, they were thinking, this is going to be a feminist anthem either.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I think there's even problem in both sides of the spectrum in that we are often taking art, we're often taking music and we're using it or twisting it for our own arguments or in our own like cultural understandings or all of that kind of stuff. Because I mean, I'm sure they're feminists in the traditional sense of the word, as in believing in, you know, equality. And that's very much reflected in a lot of their lyrics, actually, insofar as where sexual agency is concerned. But did they ask to be at the forefront of the feminist movement? I doubt it.
Yeah.
Did they ask to be at the forefront of what we term, you know, very, very degrading words for women like thoughts and whores and all of that kind of stuff? And I mean, we can talk about this whole idea of, you know, reclamation. Can we reclaim these words that have been used to degrade women? I doubt it.
I personally disagree.
I doubt it. But I think we also do need to navigate that fine line of like just using these people's arts or using these people's like expression of themselves and their frustrations as the anthem in our own agendas.
It's scapegoating.
Exactly.
That's all that it is. And I think that this is, like you said, there will be people who choose to take this and make it into maybe more than what it is. But then there's also the reality that music does reflect or shape culture.
This is it.
Right? And people will be looking at this as a reflection of, okay, because music travels so far, right? We're still singing songs that are like centuries old, right? Music travels far. And like we were saying, the joke about the dissertation stuff, it does end up in political canon and it does end up being evidence or whatever things people want to, a site that people want to analyze, right? And so I think, yes, we get the gravity of that. And we're not saying that, you know, it's just a song, move on. But I think it's the sense that it's just a song, move on. Like, you can actually choose to disengage, number one. And also, you don't have to see, and I think this is another bigger problem that people have with female rappers and female celebrities or people in the limelight who are making personal choices. One, Meg the Stallion, her job is to be a rapper. The same for Cardi B, the same for Nicki. That is their job is to make music. And if they want to be good at their jobs, the way that the whole music scene and society is set up, they have to be controversial. Mm-hmm. Very few people are being acclaimed for just talent. You can argue they're not even the most talented musicians. Mm-hmm. However, the controversy, what they are not representing, but what they present themselves as, gets them on screens. It gets them on TV. It sells their albums. And that's one thing you really have to have in mind, that this is business. And you can choose to disengage with that, but they will continue because it puts money in their pocket, right? This is their job. The same way NARS sells a highlighter called Orgasm. Their whole brand is around provocation. All of that, you can say, oh, that's just such a bad reflection on society. Until society disengages, it's not going to change because there's a market for it, number one. I love what you mentioned earlier also about, because people will argue, this hypersexualization will obviously lead to objectification, right? Is it not a double-edged sword? Yeah. Are you kind of causing this issue of women becoming objectified again? You've got a music video or you're doing a live stage performance and you're twerking, you're doing all these sexually suggestive acts in the sense. Are you undoing the revolution of, for example, like Me Too? Men have done it for long. Yeah. And men have created lyrics that objectify and women all the time. So then there's that question that you posed earlier. Can women reclaim that? Yeah. Is it a problem because it's coming from a man? Yeah, I'm just going to leave that for you today.
Yeah. So with the first one is, the presence of women twerking or doing sexual acts or, professing that they like sex, undoing all of the conversations and important progress that we have made in the Me Too movement or, talking about the rampant sexual assault that women experience. Absolutely bloody not. Yeah. It grinds my gears so... No, Courtney, it grinds my gears so much because... the fact that women now feel comfortable enough to express their sexual agency, whatever it looks like, without it being perceived as an invitation is entirely separate to this conversation about sexual assault. Yeah. Just because I twerk, just because I wear this, just because I've done X, Y, Z, does not mean that I want to have sex with you. And it doesn't mean that my body is a site to be conquered. It doesn't mean that, I was inviting you to have sex with me. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you should grope me unless I ask you to. Facts. And I think because we have read those symbols, particularly when it's performed by a woman, right? Because we have read those symbols as invitation, I don't think it's an undoing. If anything, it's showing that women can now feel comfortable enough to do those things without feeling like I'm going to be stopped on the road or I'm going to be assaulted. Or the fact that the conversations are even coexisting sometimes, I'm just like, I don't see why... because I twerk or because I decide that, to profess that I like sex, this is undoing progress as to women having conversations about dealing with sexual assault. Yeah. I just don't, where's the, hello? The correlation is missing for me. And then talking about men, and it's really interesting because I even wanted to return to the point that you were making actually around in the dilemma where you were talking about how there's, the thing that you're watching where the guys were kind of put off by the fact that, women climax or, they see it as masculine, right? Why is it threatening to men when women start talking about what they desire when it comes to sex, whether they've climaxed, whether they've enjoyed it? Yeah. And it becomes a threat because men are starting to wake up and realize that, oh, hold on, this thing that I thought was just for my pleasure, there's another being that I'm having sex with that I need to be thinking of, right? Yeah. It's not just I'm going to have sex with her, I'm going to conquer her body, I'm going to nut, I'm going to dip, excuse my crassness. But now you have to be thinking, oh, wait, there's somebody that I have to please as well. And I think a lot of folks are not ready for that conversation that sex is not just about you. Sex
it.
is not just about your capacity to climax and ejaculate. Sex is not just about you conquering, the whole idea of, having a lock and a key. Women are the lock and men are the key. Just open the lock and be going on your way.
Yeah.
Now you have to think about the fact that women are sexual beings. We have preferences, and the things that you have been doing, a lot of women that you've had sex with might not actually like. Like, because let's also talk about that, right?
Facts.
Men will talk in so many rap videos and so many pieces of artwork that a lot of men that sexualize women talk about, her performance, her body and all of that kind of stuff. Women have been so used to being objectified for so long that we don't even question these things as much anymore. But the second a woman says, hang on a second,
Facts.
let me talk about the things that I like. Let me talk about the fact that, in order to please me, you have to do these things. All of a sudden, it's a threat because it's a power dynamic, right? Yeah. This whole idea of pleasing someone sexually, it's a power dynamic. And all of a sudden, we have this whole threat of like, oh, dang, I was thinking it was just about me. And now you have to contend with the fact that maybe you're not as good at sex as you thought you were.
Facts. Simple as.
So what now?
Simple as, you said it all.
And instead of, if I was a man, because women do you know how many women will be, sorry, I'm really annoyed about this.
Pop off.
Do you know how many women will be out here doing the most to please their man sexually? Do you know how many YouTube videos there are? Forget, feminine fancy, but how many videos on sex for women, how to please a man there are that folks are out here reading, listening to? How do I make my man do this? How do I, sorry again for the crassness, but how do I, perform better in bed? How do I do all of these tricks and all of this nonsense to make him happy? Reverse it now. And all of a sudden.
Crickets.
Yeah. Even the fact that men are shocked that women can climax, shocked that women orgasm, shocked that women come. Hello, of course. All you needed to do was take a basic class on sex anatomy to know these things. But yet you're here doing all this rubbish, talking about, oh, she's a thought, she's a thought. No, she just knows what she likes when she has sex.
Yeah, simple.
But yeah, I've
ranted. You've actually said everything that was going through my mind. Like, it's that simple. Women can like sex too. And if you've made the choice to not engage in sexual activity, that was a choice. And we live in a society that often the default is that women are not allowed to engage in sexual activity rather than it becoming a choice through the systems of religion, of tradition, culture, a lot of culture preface. Look at things like FGM. Women cannot engage in sexual activity. Why? Because you need to preserve yourself for men. You are a sight to be conquered, like you mentioned, by men. We don't want to be that anymore. We realize that I exist separate from that. I can exist exclusive from that. I do not exist purely for the pleasure of a man, number one. Number two, I want to be pleasured too. And who is out there telling men, like you rightfully mentioned, you need to get better? Because literally, that was when I first saw that clip, my first thought was, you guys need to go to a sex class or something. Like, you need to start again, hit the reset button, please. Bruh. And also go and apologize to the women you've been having sex with, because it's so selfish. And a lot of times within patriarchy, it revolves around selfishness. It revolves around the centralization of men and their satisfaction, and everyone else becomes an accessory to that. We don't want to be accessories to that anymore. We're realizing, and like Meg and other people have put themselves on the center stage, this can also be my show. And you should also satisfy me in us satisfying each other. There's this thing I always have revolving in my head, and I tell people, do not become someone's sex toy. A lot of us are just breathing sex toys in the bedroom. Men are using us because they need someone else. Not because they want us, not because they care for us. And this is what we're doing now. We're engaging with men who want to satisfy us.
Bruh.
Okay? I want to satisfy you. In fact, I enjoy satisfying you, but I enjoy being satisfied. And I need you to make that a priority on your list, because this is not your show anymore. This isn't about running you to the end anymore. This isn't about pleasing you anymore. And I'm not just talking about sex and sexual activity. I'm talking about society in general. This is not just about men running the show anymore. This is about literal equality. This is about, if you want to behave badly, I can behave badly too. And if I choose not to behave badly, it's because I chose it, not because you forced me, and not because there's ramifications in place for if I do. And unfortunately, we're living in a world that women with sexual agency, like we were having that conversation about Me Too, oftentimes society tries to put them back in their place by showing them that men still have the power in the most dangerous and violent ways. And this isn't about using women, using sex as a violent weapon against women. This is about women showing that sex is about pleasure. Sex is about intimacy. Sex is about engaging with people and forming relationship. Or for some people, it has none of those meanings. Sex is about ejaculating, and that's all they want, right? But what they're saying is sex is not a weapon to be used against me.
Bruh. Just because I enjoy sex does not mean I will have sex with you.
And I don't want to have sex with you.
And I think I love what you were just saying about the weaponization of sex, particularly women with sexual agency, because that's the way that women are read. If you say you like sex, or even if you are the kind of person that has sex with multiple partners, or just is generally somebody that is quite sexual, all of a sudden, she's free, she's loose, she's this, she's that. No one would have the same thoughts around men. No one would.
And men are, and it goes back to that article I was reading, right? About like, oh, but men, they have this natural desire for sex and they just need to get it out, or they get blue balls and they die. This is not true. The tales of society and the myths that they fed us is that sex, and I get it. Oh, but there's testosterone. I get you, bro. But we are at this place now where you have to understand a lot of the reasons why people didn't believe that women were sexual beings was because women had to suppress that part of them. It was an active suppression. It wasn't the absence of those feelings.
Yeah.
And that's the misunderstanding that history has kind of seen of women have to actively suppress their sexual appetite. Why? Because of those things. You'll be called loose. In fact, you'll be seen as mad. Shut your mouth. You'll become an actual deviant.
Bruh.
Do I lie?
Bruh.
To the point where in some cultures, if you see you'll see historically, women have come, they're not virgins anymore. Your worth has completely gone out of the window into the bin.
They would call you a witch.
Or, in fact, they would banish you, abandon you, get rid of you, ostracize you, because you have taken that step of being a sexual being. Something that men are constantly forgiven for. And not even just forgiven for, but it's routinely understood as a part of their anatomy. But women have sexual desires too. Why do you think we get pregnant?
And I was even about to say the onus of sexual consequences and responsibilities always lies so firmly on the shoulders of women.
It's so biological.
Even things like birth control, the fact that the first, in terms of controlling sex, rather than talking about things like, relationships and also talking about the possibility of even having a male birth control, we went straight to women. It was like, oh, they're the ones that get pregnant, so we need to stop that so that men can have their way.
So in a couple of episodes, we're going to talk about Kevin Samuels. And this is the point that I'm going to bring up here. Oftentimes, because women deal with the physical manifestation that they are pregnant, right? Men are seen as not pregnant.
Yeah.
A man can impregnate 1,000 women, but he's still a single man. But those are pregnant women. Those are mothers. And there's so many mothers out there and not any fathers, because they do not walk around with the lingering shadow of the fact that they have children. And this is a problem, a massive problem. You see that women, like you said, the onus is put on them because it's something that they should avoid, as if people get pregnant by themselves.
Can you imagine?
And then people say, no, but you just want to be wise and you want to give yourself the best options. What I'm going to need this government to do is actually make men responsible for every single seed they have walking around this earth.
Somebody.
Because it's terrible when a woman abandons her child.
Yep.
But for a man, sowing his wild oats, we can forgive him.
Mistake.
It's a mistake. It's not a mistake.
And even, oh gosh, we're going to touch on it
Your
in that
recklessness
episode.
is not an
but even this
accident.
whole idea, you should have got him to marry you before you had his kid.
You should have trapped him. I'm sorry, I'm not in the business of catching rats. I'm not going to trap anybody. No one.
She said, not catching rats.
I don't catch rats or mice or rodents of the like.
Any kind of rodent.
But that's all I have to say. I'm going to get so upset.
Yo, this whole episode has got me upset because there's just so much to talk about.
And I know people will be like, oh, but you're too Christian, women. You're too Christian, Jesus-fearing. Jesus-loving, God-fearing, Bible-believing Christians.
You know, one of my favorite like sayings is, I'm born again, but I wasn't born yesterday. I wasn't
born yesterday.
And I don't come from the north. Listen, we come from the north geographic-wise, but when it comes to the kingdom, we're from the south side, okay? We're from the south side of that kingdom. Do you understand?
I was screaming. And I think that leads on to this idea again of role models and personal agency, right? To make your own choices, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about OnlyFans. When it comes to choosing because of your faith, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have framed faith, in my opinion, as oppressive, right? Yeah. And so when you are somebody who you're sexually... maybe you're celibate, abstinent, whatever, or you've taken a vow of chastity, people, right, feel like that is so oppressive. And I think that this is the flip side of the coin when we're talking about the sexual revolution, right? Yeah. That, like we've been stating, to choose to or to refrain, right, to be actively sexual or to refrain from sexual activity, both revolve around the same thing and they're underpinned by the same thing, which is agency. I have a freedom to choose. And oftentimes women, and I know, for example, for a long time, the narrative around our sisters in Islam, our Muslim sisters, right, is you are in a religion that is so oppressive. Bruh. It dictates to you what you can wear, where you can go. Do you want to be freed? Do you want a hero? And I think that that is one of the things that a lot of women go through as a result of this sexual revolution. When you say, I don't engage in stuff like this, people think you are someone who needs to be freed and emancipated. No, I've chosen to be here, actually. I've chosen out of my active choice. Yep. And this is the problem. A lot of people are trying to police women by forcing these things on them, thinking that it's either liberation for them or it's keeping them protected from something. Yeah. How about you let somebody choose what they do and do not do? And how about you let people choose what they live by and what they won't live by? And also give people the freedom to change their opinions. For us, we are Christian women by choice. For us, we are celibate by choice. For us, we are observing biblical principles by choice. And that's why we can come onto a platform like this and let women know you have a choice. You can choose. We've made our choice, but we're not going to choose for you. Yeah. And we're not going to shame you if you choose something else. That's it. There's a lot of people who come into my DMs talking about, oh, but you're a Christian woman. How can you? Because not everyone thinks like me. I was saved by Jesus, right? And I know he's trying to save other people. But whether they respond or not, even Jesus said, I can't force you. I can't force you. You make the choice. So who am I? Who am I?
And it really is the hubris, the arrogance. This whole, it's about power. Because even in that example, I love the fact that you're saying, especially with the Islamic example, right? That is a classic example of the West. Oh, but we don't have time for that. Whoa. But the West, the West, your nose is in things that it shouldn't be.
Keep quiet.
Mind your business. All right, your nose is in somewhere it shouldn't be.
Matt Hancock was in cupboards. But it's Aisha in Pakistan that you're concerned about.
This is it.
Boris has about 75 children.
And this is without knowing the context at all, right? This is without actually genuinely understanding that culture, that religion. And this, I love what you're saying about faith being oppressive, because that's what most people think, that faith is oppressive. Yeah. And this is not to say that instances where faith has been used as an oppressive tool don't exist. 100%. Because we can sit and have conversations about the way that Christianity has been used and abused by various communities, various folks as an oppressive tool when it comes to sexual agency. Yeah. We're intelligent enough to have that conversation. And we can converse in different instances where different faiths have been used as leverage, has been used as active oppressive tools. Yeah. However, there's also instances that can coexist with that, such that women who choose to adhere to these things do so.
And are free to.
I think we even need to just have conversations about what freedom looks like. What does sexual freedom look like? Because oftentimes it's in that semantics, where people pose very specific instances of what freedom looks like to them. But you need to understand that where the problem lies in a lot of our frames of thinking is that we are very, very narrow in how we define things. Right. We find it very difficult to have visions and ideas of the same thing looking different to different people. Why? Like, actually, why? Okay?
Because it's simpler to just look for one thing. Especially when you have such strong opinions.
This is it.
Right? Because it's like, I wouldn't live like that. Because I have sympathy for it. Like, I wouldn't live like that. I know why I wouldn't live like that. And I don't understand why you choose to live like that. Do you get what I mean? But they also have reasons why they have chosen to live like that. This is it. With as much conviction and as much belief.
This is it. And you can't diagnose it by virtue of just coming into contact with it. You need to, research, you need to engage, you need to talk to folks. Yes. You can't just assume anything.
This is it.
Like, I think that because we've become so connected, we've become disconnected in the sense that we don't take the time or trouble to get to know these people. Yeah. We get to know things that we know about them.
Yeah, that's
right. And then all of a sudden we feel empowered enough to make all of these sweeping suggestions, opinions, and all of that good stuff without actually knowing who it is behind the work.
We don't try to get to know people anymore.
We really don't.
Like what we were saying in in that same episode about internalized misogyny and respectability politics, it's easy to see someone and think you know everything about them in an attempt to suss them out, right? And get to know. But don't project what you know about someone and mistake knowing about as knowing them.
Yes.
Knowing and knowing about are very, very different. Loads of people know about us. They don't know us.
Bruh.
You can't tell me everything about me. I can't even tell you everything about Renee.
Bruh.
Even I know her, right? There's so many opportunities to know because we're living in the information age. You may have picked up a Quran or picked up a Bible and think you know everything about it. But it doesn't mean you know it. There are people living it, right? They are in knowing, they are in intimacy. And you can't have certain conversations with people about certain things because you don't even know them. You know about them and you've presumed about them because of, you know, physical signals. Maybe they wear a head covering or maybe they've got a cross around their neck or maybe they are in the shortest skirt known to man. Yeah. And you assume you understand them, their politics, their morals and all. You don't know anything. Get to know people in intimacy and community and true friendship before you pass a judgment about who they are. That's why I loved when we first started talking about this topic. You said, I don't know Meg. I don't know Cardi. And it's easy to see their art as a reflection of them. So many of us even work for organizations. We don't even agree with half of the stuff that they do. Yet we will still take our paycheck. And people will sit around and call that hypocrisy. No, it's capitalism. It's the reality of this society. You exploit things. I don't agree with it. I personally would try to avoid it. I'm not going to pass judgment on someone who does it. Sorry.
Especially when you yourself sometimes fall short of your own ideals.
In fact, we need to put that on a t-shirt.
Bruh.
You are not perfect. This bar you've set, sometimes you be missing it.
You're far below. Far below. You're out here policing women on, sexual deviancy and their behavior, but you still go home and you still have sex with your boyfriend.
And you're still watching the pornography.
It's
just yours is hidden.
You think that we don't know?
You still touch yourself in the night.
Fact.
Did I lie? Thank you.
We'll wait for the sisters to confirm that. You know, if Courtney be lying.
I'm screwed. No, but I mean it in the sense that it's easy to hide.
Yeah, it is.
They've decided to make public what it is they believe in. And but so many of us are living lies.
Lies. Yeah. Lies.
Stop lying. Tell the truth. Shame the devil. Be yourself. And just admit where you are. Like maybe you're even doing stuff that you are ashamed of.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Mm-hmm. Be a real human being.
Yep.
And say, I'm trying to get better. I'm trying to get closer to this post that I've set myself. And I need people's help in doing that, right? Because they've acknowledged their true selves. Mm-hmm. Whether people want to acknowledge it or not, whether people want to agree with it or not, they've decided I'm going to live fully in what I believe. But a lot of us are trying to, live up to what it is that we believe. But every time we fall short, we don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
Right? It's sad.
Yeah.
And it's leading to a lot of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Right. And it's even on the flip side, people who are like, yeah, I'm so sexually positive. And it's like,
that's even how they sound.
You're doing this for social acceptance. You don't even believe in it.
Yes.
But I'm participating. It's a hot girl summer. And please don't touch me. I don't want to be out here.
Respectfully.
I don't feel comfortable in these clothes.
Bruh.
You don't have to participate because other people are saying this is what's socially acceptable. You actually don't have to give in to peer pressure. How about that?
We rest our case. Rest it.
Your Honor, please bang the gavel. I think we're over here. Everyone is guilty. But okay, lastly, this episode is hella long, but it's a juicy topic.
Yeah, man.
Sex work.
Ooh.
And the democratization of sex work.
Yes.
Particularly
OnlyFans.
You know something is big when Beyonce puts it in a lyric.
Oof.
On that demon time,
yeah.
Mega's even in that song.
Yeah.
I might start an OnlyFans. What are your thoughts on OnlyFans and sex work? Well, this new era of sex work.
This new era of sex work. Okay, so first of all, context. Sex work has existed since the beginning of time.
They call it the oldest job, the oldest trade, prostitution and sex work.
It has existed since forever. Okay? So this is not a new thing that we're dealing with.
All.
I'm happy that you said this new phase of sex work because that's
I'm glad you picked up on that.
Oh, girl, don't worry. I'll be seeing. Oh my God. Somebody say the particularities. This new phase of sex work. What are my thoughts towards sex work in general I'll deal with, and then what are my thoughts towards this new phase of sex work and why people are actually rattled with it. Right. So in general, I don't necessarily agree with sex work. Right. It's not something that I would find myself doing. Does that mean that anyone that engages with sex work diminishes in value? No. Does that mean that they're, dehumanized as a result of taking part in sex work? No. It just means that, it's not something that I do for myself. Right. It's not something that, but if you do it, I'm not going to come to you and be like, you're this, you're that. I'm not going to hold a sign to you and say, stop. Stop. For the love of God, stop. Because, there's folks that are out there. I mean, so for me and my household, I don't agree with sex work. I wouldn't do it. It's not something that I would promote to my friends and all of that stuff. So I don't agree with prostitution, sex work and all of that good stuff. Sex work right now, particularly in OnlyFans, I think what rattles people a lot about OnlyFans is really the rise of women taking agency very, very actively, or at least it seems like it is, and profiting from sex work. And it's I've seen so many arguments against OnlyFans, but y'all don't have the same energy for Pornhub. Y'all don't have the same energy for other big corporatized sex work platforms, but OnlyFans is what you... And the thing is, I actually looked at OnlyFans the other day because I knew that we would at some point touch on this. And I was looking at the amount of men, not even men, just folks in general that subscribe to OnlyFans and all of that kind of stuff. in comparison to how much people will demonize OnlyFans, they've got a hell of a following, and there's a lot of people making a lot of money from it. So for me, the math wasn't mathing, because it's just like, if you're actively complaining about OnlyFans, particularly men, and there's a lot of men that will, you know, comment on like a lot of videos that I've seen saying OnlyFans is so destructive, there's a lot of people that are still subscribed, like millions of people are subscribed to OnlyFans, spending good money. And I think it is really rattling society to see that the money is going directly to the creators.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about, like, my problem with things like Pornhub and other like really big corporatized sex work platforms is the duty of care to those workers.
Terrible.
Is awful. Like, I was watching some documentaries on, you know, particularly women that have experienced really, really like horrific incidents of trafficking or sexual assault. And a lot of people don't dig into that when they're watching pornography.
And they think because it's free, that's the issue.
Ooh.
They think because it's free, they are not endorsing or helping or fueling that, right? But people see OnlyFans and they see that you have to enter your card details and you have to pay. It makes them feel a bit less. It makes them feel like, oh, I'm more hands off.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not the one. You know, that whole leave your money on the nightstand. People don't have that guilt. Right. But you are fueling it. Every time you go on these websites, you are helping to fuel these trades.
You are.
And that's,
You're not holier than thou.
We have to talk about like porn.
You're not.
Yeah.
You're not holier than thou just because you watch Pornhub over OnlyFans. You're not. Deal with it. And there's so much content out there around the degradation of women that are rising up on OnlyFans. Like, she doesn't know how to invest her money. She doesn't know how to do this. She's not an intellectual because she has an OnlyFans. Why are you so pressed about the women in particular? Cool, like, talk to whoever, your communities and stuff like that. If that's something internally that you really feel strongly against, cool. But why are you out here really actively dehumanizing sex workers on OnlyFans because you've seen that they've made money?
Yeah.
And you've seen that it's going directly to them.
Yeah.
When women for a very long time have been paid pittances. Exactly. Yeah. Women, and also it's really interesting to see that a lot of this is going towards women. There are male creators on OnlyFans too. They don't get as much. Yo, I was even seeing a post, right? Comparison between two posts that someone posted on Instagram. The first was a male who had been bringing in around like 5-6 figures a month from OnlyFans, right? And he purchased a house. The amount of people underneath his comments that were leaving such lovely things like, good for you, bro, really happy for you. Look at how you've become entrepreneurial, blah, 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 blah.
Not become entrepreneurial.
A woman also bought a house. She was pulling in racks, like way more than 5 figures. Make serious money. 6 figures, even 7 figures from OnlyFans. Purchased a house. This is extremely degrading. This is disgusting. I was just like, if you have this energy for OnlyFans and sex work in general, why is this same energy not doled out to men that engage in sex work?
It's a tragedy.
And again, I just think it comes back to this whole idea of women being agent sexual beings, right? Because for men engaging in sex work, it's kind of like, okay, it's a bit, seedy, but, man he's enjoying, right? He's a man, so he's making money from the things that he enjoys. But for women, it's like, oh, it's just another hoe on the come up.
Yeah.
I am utterly confused at it. Confused, perplexed.
It's so true. And I think one thing that people often like just erase when it comes to sex work is there would not be any trade if there wasn't a market.
This is the thing.
It's pure economics.
People are consuming.
So the more we hear, oh my gosh, OnlyFans and all these creators are the ones who are sinking society ship. No.
It's the market.
It's the market.
It's the market.
The fact that there is an audience for it, that's where you should be putting your suspicion. That's where you should be ask, why are you interested in looking at a woman's toes? These are questions we must ask. I'm not mad at her for showing her toes because there's a market.
Bro, that's even another thing. Most people assume that they're doing the most on OnlyFans. Some good sisters.
OnlyFans itself is not even a sex platform.
This is it.
It's a place where creators can share exclusive content behind a paywall. That's it. If people want to use it for sex, I guess they're allowing it on their app, right?
Bruh.
People get so upset that there is a supply, forgetting that there is a demand. There's a reason why a girl can post a foot picture and buy a house next
Come
week.
on.
It's not because of her. It's because of the people.
Yeah.
The men and the women who subscribe to that,
This is
right?
it.
So if you want to talk about the downfall, it's the onus isn't on these creators because they are not triggering something. They're not forcing anyone to come and watch them, right? They're doing it because they see there is a demand, right? So if there's anyone that should be dealt with, it's why do we demand that?
Yeah.
That's what we should be questioning. Why has society created a space for there to be that demand?
Yep.
Of course, people are going to take the opportunity if it arises. Why is there the opportunity? That's the question we should ask. Not OnlyFans should be taken off the App Store. OnlyFans should be, hit with so many injunctions. No, it's about human beings. Why do we crave to see these things? It's the same with Pornhub, them trafficking young women, right, to perform sex acts or not filtering through their websites to see what is purely consensual and what has been uploaded there with weird kinks that surround violence against women. I'm not kink shaming. This is the law. What I'm trying to say is, why is there a demand for that? That's the studies that we should be doing. And also, why are we not mad why are we so mad when women profit off of this? When the creators, when the agents of the body profit off of it more than people pimping out their bodies?
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
People be mad at the women walking on the side of the street forgetting they have pimps. Who's going to arrest the pimps? And oftentimes, no, because nowadays, pimps aren't wearing lime green suits.
No, they're not.
Like you saw in Strippers Club or I can't even remember, Players Club. People are sitting in C-suites and they're pimps. Oh, child. People have nice suits, living in nice houses, voting Republican and conservative. They're pimps. And who's going to deal with that? Who's going to deal with the fact that they're exploiting fear, that they're exploiting fetishes for young children and women's bodies, and people who don't even want to participate are being forced to participate. Why? Because there's a demand.
That's it.
Why are these perversions existing? It's not because the supply is there. No one creates supply without demand. No one says, oh, I'm going to create something out of nowhere, not knowing that there is a need.
This is it.
And hope that people come and it become a cultural phenomenon. No, people go. How did we all find porn? We went looking. Porn didn't come and knock on my door. I looked for it.
Wow.
Why?
Wow.
And we need to look at why that is happening. And we can walk around in circles and say, oh, because the intrigue is there, because you already see it and then you want to go and look for it again. But let's go just to the seed of the issue, which is the fact that within all of us, there is something that falls short. There is something that falls short to the ideals that we have about society. And we need to address that and realize that everybody else really is collateral damage, right? If we're going to frame it that way, people are collateral damage in the fact that society is a bit messed up and it's a bit warped, and we all need to take personal responsibility and personal accountability about our actions. Other people's accountability looks like, you know what, I'm just going to participate in this game, make as much money from it as possible because other people want it. Why shouldn't I supply it? And in fact, I found that I am comfortable supplying it. Whilst similar to you, personally, I would not do it. And I cannot sit here and say, I'm completely fine with it, because if my sister told me she was doing it, I'll be big mad. But I acknowledge that is it's a response in today's societal climate. That is a response that also surrounds agency, right? But let's not act as though, like you said, people are less than, people are inhumane, people shouldn't be valued. Because one thing I despise to the core of me is when people refute the humanity of people who do things that they disagree with. We should still advocate for the safety of sex workers.
Absolutely.
Whether you agree with their occupation or not. They are human beings. They are human beings. You have to protect their humanity. I'm sorry, nothing disqualifies you from safety.
Bruh. I don't even know why we have gotten to a place where if you engage in certain things, all of a sudden your humanity is denied.
Denied. Of
I
course,
just don't get it.
These bad things should happen to you. It's like that whole victim blaming thing.
You were
right?
asking for it.
You were asking for it.
Sick of it. Actually sick of it.
Anyways, we've come to the end of today's episode. We implore you to find a petition to sign and send this to everyone, really.
Everybody you know.
Everyone you know.
Everybody you know.
Do you already know how to end this one?
Yo, my chest.
Well, we've popped off.
Yeah.
You guys know we come onto this place to rant, to talk.
Yeah.
And we want to hear from you.
Yep.
Be that third seat at the table.
Yes.
We want to hear from
Pull
you.
up a chair.
Pull up a chair. And let us know what you think down in the comments. We know we've said a lot, so feel free to go into as long of a paragraph as you need. We won't take nonsense. Like she said, we're from the south side of the kingdom. We won't take nonsense. And we won't take you talking nonsense to any of the sisters that are in this community. Yes. So yeah, let's keep it respectful. You can respectfully disagree. That's the name of the game over here. But yeah, tell us what you think down in the comments here on YouTube. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can head over to YouTube or hit us up on the Instagram and join the community and engage in the conversation by @ing us @to my sisterhood. And of course, you can come and say hi to us personally on our pages. Come and see what we get up to in our day-to-day lives.
That's right.
The lovely Renee Kapuku and @CD Boating. I almost forgot my handle. I almost forgot it. I'm that pressed. @CD Boating @Renee Kapuku.
And of course, you can join the conversation on Twitter. It's been popping off recently, so I suggest you
We love to see
hop
it.
on over there and follow us @To My Sisterhood too. And of course, join our weekly mailing list. We've got some treats, we've got some goodies, and we've got some great conversation, as well as some bits and pieces to get you thinking about this week's episode on sex work, OnlyFans, sexual agency, and shame. So make sure you join the mailing list by going to our website, www.tomysisters.com, and sign up. Whew. Well, I hope that, that really changed some gears. Got you thinking.
Got you thinking.
Got
The
you
wheels
thinking.
turning.
The wheels turning. The cars were well oiled.
Yeah.
And we'll be back before you know it. But in our absence, we wish you a fantastic week ahead. And of course, keep glowing and growing.